don't need a high-end designer or a lot of money to get a luxe look. Be your own interior designer.
This is Affordable Interior Design, the podcast.
Here's your host, Betsy Helmuth.
Let me get to your question. Betsy, please help. You're our only hope. How do I transform our Frankenstein vents kitchen range hood into something livable? Husband upgraded our kitchen and installed an actual range hood. He had to cut holes under the drywall, under the microwave to make the airflow work. He covered them with mesh. See the pictures? They're a complete eyesore and we are so stumped. Though we thought we might find a piece of stainless steel and have someone laser cut a pattern into that so that airflow could be achieved. But we were told that we'd have to come up with a design to create some sort of computer document to give to people who could laser cut. What? That advice was way above our heads. And we've sat on this now for 2 whole years. Please help. We are getting rid of the holes in the drywall. Well, we'd like to, but I clarify, it's not actually possible without that range hood. And without a range hood, we're going to smoke the house out in the wintertime. Please help. All right, let's look at this. Okay. Well, I see what you're talking about. It is pretty offensive. And the problem, Sonia, is that you are not tapping into my zone of genius because you do have, for those of you who aren't following along on YouTube, you've got an electric range, and above the electric range, you have a microwave that's embedded in the cabinetry right above. And there's only, I don't know, let me get a better view on this. There's only about a foot between the top of the stove and the bottom of the microwave, probably even less. And in that small gap, there's these 2 kind of stainless steel bordered vents that have mesh in front of them. They look like 2 little holes you've covered with screens, right? And they're rectilinear, they're similar size, but they are indeed a pretty bad eyesore. This solution would need to be custom. I would like to see 1 long piece instead of 2. And I know that you do have drywall in between the 2 holes. Either you could expand the hole and make it just 1 long hole, or you could just use the mesh or whatever new solution that you create and put it over the entire expanse so that you don't have the separation. If it weren't 2 pieces, it would look less cluttery and 1 piece would look a little bit more streamlined. In fact, on that point, let me think about what I'm about to say here. They do have some really interesting metal trellis pieces if you go to Home Depot or whatever. I'm kind of thinking that you get this metal trellis stuff. There's probably a better word, but I don't manage renovations. But it's oftentimes the stuff that you might see in front of a radiator on a radiator cover. I would recommend that you buy that and have it extend all the way from behind the stove, the same width as the stove, all the way up behind the microwave. If it was 1 clean piece of sheeting that was perforated, I think it would be a much better look. It would almost look as if it was a feature. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Betsy, I'm going to clearly be able to see these holes, right? Because the sheetrock and the holes are a different color. But what if you painted behind the metalwork something that was a little bit darker so it looked more similar to the shaded holes? So you're really kind of creating this interesting effect, right, where the painted drywall and the holes are the same color, and then you're overlaying the sheeting from all the way from the bottom of the microwave down behind the stove. So you've got this really clean effect. Now, the other option that's very affordable is they do have microwaves with range hoods at the bottom. I don't know if you've explored that. I don't know if that's something that you'd be tempted to look into because it would be more expensive than just buying, metal radiator cover, whatever, at Home Depot. But these are some ideas I have for you. I don't want you to feel bad about your space. These are eyesores, but I think there are several affordable solutions. It's just about getting something that's perforated, something that's metallic, and maybe something that could be 1 cohesive piece rather than these cobbled together rectangles. Sonia, I'm not a renovator, so there's probably a podcast for that. But I do hope that my stories, my anecdote about the dollar store helps you not only to embrace your space and your limitations in a new way, but also gave you some insights on how to deal with this Frankenstein situation. A big thank you to Aton and the Embassy, who wrote our theme song. A shout out to Catherine Heller, who owns the podcast shop and is our editor extraordinaire. We also want to thank Ginny Sunasan and her team at the Savvy Podcast Agency for their help with our social, our YouTube channel, and so much more. We also want to thank Uploft, which is our parent company who supports this podcast. And lastly, we owe a huge debt of gratitude to you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for all your support.